Hello, and welcome to the What Inspires You podcast. My name is Paul.
And I'm Brandon. Join us as we rediscover wonder through inspiring conversation.
You inspired this week?
I am inspired this week. Yeah.
Has there ever been a week in your life where you weren't inspired?
Sure. I don't know. I've probably had some uninspiring weeks of my life. Yeah. But I bury those deep down inside. I'm a changed man now.
Those.
Yeah. Now I find inspiration everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always inspired. Got to go to our other podcast to find all our uninspiring thoughts.
Uninspired thoughts. You know what's not inspiring? Life.
Yeah, just find the most mundane things that just bore you to death. For me, I'd just talk about cooking for an hour.
Cooking, yeah.
I hate cooking.
Yeah, other people's inspiration is probably my uninspiration. Yeah. What do you find inspiring? Oh, I love flowers. That's the thing that makes me depressed. I hate those things.
I'm allergic to flowers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's funny.
Perception.
Yeah, right. It definitely shapes your reality
Yeah,
to some extent.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you should go first, right?
Yeah, me. I'll go first.
I think
that's
how it's working at this point.
All right. Yeah, it's about our system.
Okay.
So, I'm still kind of hung up after last week on like the Maui fire things, that, because it's like these fires in Maui, and it made me think of Maui, which made me think of Hawaii. And then I was like, Hawaii is so inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still thinking about those fires. And so I was like, something else that I've been thinking a lot about, and I think I've already told you this outside of the podcast, was just one of the famous local firefighters, Ed Pulaski. And I wanted to talk about him today because I thought he was really inspiring. And I guess I'll start off by saying that I first learned about Ed Pulaski by going to Wallace, North Idaho, and there's this hiking trail out there that's literally called the Pulaski Trail, where you go to this like cave out, it's like this tunnel out in the mountains.
Yeah.
And along the trail, when I went hiking there with my wife, the whole time you basically have these like little placards all along the way. And you're reading this story of this guy named Big Ed Pulaski.
Everyone's big back in the day. Dude.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, anybody who was like a somebody was like Big Joe,
Big Al,
Big Ed. It's like, I guess they were big. I don't know. But
big in our hearts.
Yeah, big in our hearts. Yeah, and so you go up this trail and you're reading all of it, and you're like there in the location where these events happen, which makes it extra fun. But it's fun to look at that because that was the history of one of the local heroes of North Idaho from back in 1910, which is the year that America had like the great fires of the Northwest, basically. And so a large part of Idaho, Montana, Washington were all on fire with just these uncontrollable fires.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this guy, Ed Pulaski, who had lived in the area for a long time, and he had been like a miner and a mining prospector and done all these different things in the area, worked for like the logging industry and all this stuff. And so he knew the area really well.
Yeah. And
he eventually became in charge of a fire crew, because at that time in history, there with all these fires, we didn't really have like a super big like firefighter service, and so there wasn't like a whole lot of like national like fire rangers, I should say, like people who would go out in the wilderness and like fight fires in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the great fires that occurred in 1910, the country was like hiring tons of people like crazy, to just anybody who wants to come in, like come join the
nationally or statewide.
I think nationally they were, yeah. And so there was a big draw to that. And so there was a lot of people who were, kind of the mountain men population, the miners and the loggers and people who like lived out in the woods and stuff, who were like, yeah, sure, like I live in these woods anyway, like I'll just help preserve them.
And get paid to do it. Yeah.
Get paid to do it. And that was basically what this guy was doing. He was like, sure, I'll go like clear down extra trees, and I'll help people with like, building roads out into the mountains, and, trying to protect from fire and fire prevention and all these kinds of things. And so he was already, that was like super, super normal for him. And he has an interesting story, because basically there was this raging fire that was coming over this mountain. And when it came over the mountain, it was going to go down the other side into the town of Wallace, which wasn't like a super big town, but people lived there. And he lived there with his family, and he was in charge of a fire crew that was out on the mountain ridge fighting the fire that was maybe like a few miles out of town.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in town with his wife and his kids, and he literally told them, "You need to get ready to evacuate because I can just tell that that fire is like coming for this town, and like the whole town needs to get ready to evacuate." And he took his horse and he started going up into the mountains so that he could help out his fire crew. Like he didn't have to go do that, but he like decided that like I need to go get those people and help them because everyone is gonna like this fire is out of control. We can't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he like went into danger and made that choice. And then even when he was going up the mountainside, he actually found a little like crew of guys who were going up there with like their own little like a supply train to go bring supplies to the fire rangers that were up there.
Mm-hmm.
And the fire was starting to get so intense and the heat and the smoke that supply train was like, no, we're not even going to do this. Like, we're just going to ditch those guys. And they literally turned around because they were scared. And Ed Pulaski kept going. He didn't turn around. So he like kept going up on his horse. Mm-hmm. And then he got up to the top of the mountain ridge and saw the fire. And he had a crew of about 45 guys up there. And he said, guys, we're all going to die. Like, we have to get out of here. We've got to run. Just get back to the city. How are they
fighting the fire at this point in time?
I don't actually know. I don't know if they were like taking buckets out of like the river, or if they were trying to chop down trees, or if they were just trying to like put dirt on. Like, I don't know what they were doing. Yeah. But whatever the situation was, he assessed it and was like, there's no way we're going to stop this. We've got to just run. Mm-hmm. So he told somebody to like go back to Wallace and make sure everybody evacuated. Then he got off his horse and gave it to another guy who literally couldn't like walk very well. So he gave it to the guy so that that guy could escape. And then he took all the guys down. And as they started going down the mountain, they went down into this canyon, and the fire basically caught up with them, and they couldn't outrun it. And the fire was starting to go around them on the canyon walls and get in front of them. And they were like, oh, shoot, we're trapped. So he basically took them over to this one mine because he knew all the mining areas because he was like a miner and he knew all the tunnels and everything. He took them over to this one mine, and they looked in it and realized, oh, dang, it's too small for like 45 guys and a couple horses. You know, like we can't all fit in here. So then he takes them over to another mine that's a little further down. Actually, I'm sorry, it wasn't further down. It was actually further up. So they had to like go back up along the river and try to go towards the raging fire so that they could go into this like larger cave tunnel. So it's like multiple times he keeps like choosing to walk into danger and like walk into just these gnarly circumstances. Then they finally go into a mine, and I can't remember the original name of the mine because after he took them in there, they renamed it to the Pulaski Tunnel. Like now it's the Pulaski Tunnel, but back then it was like, I think it was like the Eagle Mine, or I can't remember, it was something different. Mm-hmm. And they go into this mine, and he's literally shoved 45 guys into this mine, a couple horses into the mine. And he actually was at the front of the mine trying to like fight the fire from coming through the door of the mine with like his hands, and basically like taking clothes and any kind of cloth and like dipping it in water and like trying to put it over the doorway so that the smoke and the fire wouldn't come through, and trying to like plug up the whole thing. And a couple times like fire sort of exploded through the door and like burned his face actually. So he had damage in like his eye and his face from like fire. And he's like still just like fighting this fire on this door, And at one point there was this guy in the cave who said, I can't take this anymore. Like, I can't handle this. I'm going to like open the door and run out, which it seems stupid. Like, that's just pure fire out there, right? Like,
you're not, like an inferno.
You're not going anywhere. And Pulaski had to pull out his revolver and point it at him and be like, nobody's leaving this mine. Like, if you open that door, we're all going to die. So like, you have to stay in here. And he convinced the guy to stay in. Mm-hmm. And eventually over time, too much smoke got in there and everybody passed out. And unfortunately, the horses died, and I think there were like 5 or 6 guys that actually died from the smoke. They just didn't survive it. Mm-hmm. But like 12 hours later, they all woke up, and there were like 39 of them, I think, were still alive. And so then Ed Pulaski, actually, I think it was 38. Yeah, I think 38 of them are still alive. And Ed Pulaski just like led them back down the rest of the mountain, and all the fire had already burned through. And then they just like made it to a hospital, and he had to be in the hospital for like a month afterwards, But it's one of the most famous stories in, I think, firefighting history, and especially in local histories, as like local heroes go up here in North Idaho. And it's interesting because he basically used his expertise from another field of work. And because he like cared about his local area and knew what was happening, he like wasn't afraid to go into danger, save 30, I mean, really 45, but some of them passed away, but like 38 guys, and get them out of like certain death. Tell the town they needed to evacuate. So he helped everybody get out of the town by giving them that warning.
Did Wallace burn down?
Wallace, yeah, most of Wallace burned down, yeah. But a lot of people made it out of there. I don't know if there were any deaths from that, actually. I think a lot of people made it out okay. And then afterwards, he created that whole tool that's it's like a hoe on one end and like an axe on the other. And that's like one of the main staples of firefighting tools today. And they call that the Pulaski tool because he basically like invented it after that fire. So it's just, I think, inspiring to me that you could be somebody who kind of is like living out in the boonies, not really thinking you're ever going to become somebody. You just like know your little neck of the woods really well. And it's really just that he had the courage to use his knowledge and have like clear thinking in the midst of like total panic, keep going when other people were turning back, know when like, hey, you can't go out this door. Like this is a situation where like everybody has to stay calm. And like, I know that it's going to keep us alive and what's going to kill us. And to like think that clearly, I just think that's super inspiring. And it makes me realize that like anybody, if they like have the courage and the ability, they can like really come through as like a hero in certain situations, And so I think it's just inspiring, and just thinking about how many fires there are across the country right now, and how, people, like there's so many people in those types of situations right now, where like the town is burning down and there's firefighters trying to help you and first responders. And there's so many like decisions that people can be making that influence, people around them. And it's just inspiring, I think, to remember an old story like that. So I wanted to share it.
Yeah. It's super cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like he obviously had a lot of competency in life. So
yeah, it's hard to know exactly what kind of person he was, but it definitely seems like he was a person with confidence and like knew what he was about, knew how to like order a big group of men around, knew the area really well, had great situational awareness.
Probably super fit.
Probably fit, yeah. Walk in the woods, chopping trees, mining. Probably pretty fit.
Yeah, that's good. Good things to aspire to then for people. I guess it's like if you like to be the hero, you gotta kind of work hard to get yourself to a place where people can rely on you. Or whatever. Because it's like the idea of being the hero is nice, but if you're not like in peak condition, whether it be mentally, physically, whatever, spiritually, if you want to say that, then it's like it's pretty hard to help people a lot of times. So but yeah,
I think one of the big things that I look at from his story is like what's a skill or something just unsuspecting that like he's been trying to make it in life doing like logging and mining and prospecting and just stuff that like back then there wasn't, not a lot of people were becoming like super rich. Like every once in a while people struck gold, but like not everybody, and he just got to know an area really well and have competency with a lot of these different skills that like in just the right situation, those were like exactly the skills you needed to have to know your way through the woods, to be able to judge like this fire's out of hand, we can't stop it, and exactly where this little tunnel is that we can all go hide in, and like what you got to do to stay alive in that. It's like just the exact skills you need in that moment, And I think it just reminds me that like there's probably tons of skills I have that like I don't even recognize in myself, that if I was in just the right circumstance, it's like that's exactly the skill you need. Like maybe I don't have skills to like disarm a bomb, but like there could be a weird situation where it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't help this person stretch that muscle, the world will end.
Yeah, you never know.
Like, I don't know. So it's like I feel like you just can't underestimate
Stop
yourself.
World War III because Xi Jinping's back was going out and I fixed it. And now he loves America.
I mean, that's how a lot of cartoons work.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean though. Like, well, that's the thing. It's like, it's so, I mean, for him, it's like, even timing like probably plays a role in that, it's like if he'd been maybe half an hour later or earlier,
right?
It's like the whole circumstances could have been different.
Yeah.
You know, so it's hard to say, you know, it's like, because not only is it skills, but then it's like timing, right place, right time, you know, all that too. So it's, yeah, there's these 1 in a million moments, you know, whether they're orchestrated or not. I guess you can see that however, but yeah, it's, I don't know. I think if it's kind of like meant to be, you know, those moments happen where everything lines up perfectly, you know, and you don't have to, you know, overthink it a ton. You know, I'm sure he wasn't like out there prepping, like, I'm going to be, you know, working forestry so I can someday save everybody from a fire, you know?
Right.
Like, you just kind of do what you feel called to do. And then, you know, those moments line up for you, I think, throughout your life.
Well, see, that's a good point. You can't always plan your opportunities of heroism.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of times heroism is like in the moment, you've got to make that decision that like, I'm going to rise up and do something really hard right now.
Yeah.
You know, it also just brings me back to the story of Esther in the Bible, you know,
that's a good one, yeah.
Because that's when, you know, she gets into the king's palace and she has the king's ear, and all the nation of Israel is basically going to get slaughtered in, what was it, Persia at the time, I think.
Darius?
I think, no, it was... No, it was Artaxerxes
Darius.
or something. No, I think it was after Darius. I think it's this guy whose name was like Artaxerxes or something like that. I think it was. I don't know if it was after Darius. I think it was after Darius. I can't remember. Or maybe it's another name for Darius. I'm not sure.
I think there was like 5 Dariuses at one point.
Yeah, there might have been a few Dariuses.
No. Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, you know, and it's like she's in the palace, and then she's like, oh no, like, all the Jews are going to die. Like, what am I going to do? And her uncle's like, hello. Like, maybe you're in the palace for such a time as this. Like, you're probably here for a purpose. So why don't you go talk to the king?
Yeah.
And had to take, you know, courage on her part to go do that.
Yeah. And that, I mean, you could say that's a skill, I guess, to some extent, but it's like, you know, sometimes it's just saying yes, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, to the opportunity that presents itself, and you don't need to be. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she had skills to even get her to like being in that position, you know, just like.
Apparently she was attractive.
Yeah.
I think that was the whole thing.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I would imagine you have to be like well spoken.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like these all, like, obviously in the Bible, it's like very simplified down, you know, but it's like, I'm sure there was much more that goes into, you know, being selected and like all that kind of stuff. And, you know, so maybe you know, there's other skills there that like, you know, more courtly skills, or, you know, even just maybe social connections or something, or, you know, being personable or whatever the thing is that gets you into that place where you need to be, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's not always just brawn or whatever, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Like in Ed's story, he had a bunch of skills that unsuspectedly led to him, you know, saving a lot of people. And yeah, in her situation, you know, it's like, I'm sure that she did have skills, although in the Bible, it's like they don't necessarily extrapolate on that. But at the end of the day, with both stories, it's just coming down to recognizing the situation and then making a decision, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe if you have, maybe it's sort of insight or something, like if you have the insight on what needs to be done, then you can like effectively be a hero, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, he could have made a dozen different calls, you know, with the fire, but he made the one, like a series of calls that like led to the right thing, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's like if Esther had been like, I'll just wait a day, you know, it's like, that was a day too late, or, you know, whatever, or like, you know, I'll try to, you know, tattle on Haman at first or something, you know? And then like the king's like, what are you doing? Like going after my court or something, you know?
Right.
And so, but yeah, you know, it's like, because even the way that went down was weird, you know. She was like, I'll tell you, and then she didn't tell him right the first time, and then she's like, I need to meet you with you again.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, even that's kind of weird, where it's like, you don't.
Like, she kind of lost her nerve a little bit.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. So I don't know if that played into it or if that was, you know, who knows.
Yeah, I know.
So
anyway, no, just interesting thinking of the decisions that people can make and how powerful that can be. But
yeah, it's kind of almost like the butterfly effect in some instance, you know. It's like you never know which series of events you can take to get you to the big results. And so,
yeah,
I don't know. That's either very comforting or very disconcerting.
yeah,
I don't know which, but
yeah. Because then it's like it makes you feel like there's tons of pressure on every decision, you
yeah,
know. But if you like, and you know, thinking of like you were saying with Ed Pulowski, it's like, did he, you know, he didn't necessarily sit there and like plan that like in a week from now I shall save everyone, you know, and this is how it's going to work, you know, and out of all the different possible options he had, like, did he necessarily sit down and even think to himself like, okay, I could go save the guys on the mountain, I could go evacuate with my family, I could just go do something totally different, you know? It's like, did he sit there and think about it, or was it like reaction, this is the one idea that's in my brain, like this is the only thing I can think of, is like, family, go evacuate, I got to go to the mountain, you know? Like, how many ideas are there jumping around in his head? And it's like, for everybody else that was in that town, what ideas were jumping around in their head, you know? It's like not everybody maybe had that instinctive idea that would just tell them like, I got to go save these guys on top of the mountain, you know? A lot of other people were probably thinking like, I got to get out of this town.
Like, you know, the self-preservation mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is yeah, I think, well, people, I've noticed that people who like are generally sacrificial, like that is like they almost train themselves to like that to be their first instinct, is to like look towards others, you know, or like instead of themselves, which I think is like a really cool, you know, thing that makes the world turn in some sense. But you know, so it's like people like that probably was his first instinct, you know, was to go like, you know, he's just thinking about, I mean, obviously, like you see it in him giving his horse to the guy that can't walk very well, you know, it's like, there's obviously like a theme of self-sacrificial moves at every step, you know, being the person in the front of the cave, you know, it's like, so that was obviously his MO in life, you know, and you don't just like get that out of nowhere, you know, it's like, and so, yeah, it was obviously something that seems to I'm speaking like I know the guy, but you know, it's like it usually if there's a pattern like that, even in a small story, it's like he was probably living that way on a larger scale. Yeah. You know, for a long time. Yeah. So yeah. So probably those decisions came instinctually to him to, you know, like you said, evacuate family and then go evacuate the guys. You know, it's like probably just going through like the list of things that need to be done to help out other people or something. So but yeah, it's cool if you can train your instinct to like be like that, you know, where it's like, I think that's where you can be like a hero most of the time. It's just by being in a state of like service to humanity, you know? And so like once you do that, then the opportunities kind of rise. And I think that's like almost a precondition to being in a situation where you can be a hero, you know? It's like you have to be sacrificial to some extent. And that's what we look to in all our heroes, you know, someone who's willing to put their life on the line, whether it's Marvel fictional heroes or, you know, real people, you know, stopping a burning building or whatever, or doing whatever. So
yeah, it's interesting. It's like, how do you, I guess, like train that that decision making? Because I can imagine that if you're in like a really scary situation like that, you don't necessarily want to go like run into the fire, but it's like if you've already trained yourself to like, I don't have to be afraid of the fire, or like there's something I need to go do, or I don't know, it's like if you are in that mindset already, then those snappy decisions I think become really easy, and you don't get like stuck on doing them. And I think that if you have the adrenaline, you know, it's like you're in the moment, you can just like go and do those things, and a lot of that fear could maybe be taken out, or you just like just go into action. You don't have to think about it a whole lot. You know, and that takes like a lot of training and preparation to get to that place, whether you know that you're training for that or not. You know, but it's like if you have to like premeditate a whole heroic act, then when the moment comes for you to do it, you might have like put too much pressure on yourself, and then you like fall short because you like freaked yourself out. You know, you lost your nerve. So
again, I would imagine like, you know, he had been probably a sacrificial person, you know, or a self-sacrificing person for a long time, and you know, this moment it's like you said, the adrenaline kind of kicks out the fear, allowing you to like go with your instinct. And his instinct probably was to help people at that time, you know? So it's like, it was probably just clear, I'm guessing. Like, of course we do this, you know? It's like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's a good question though. Yeah. And then, you know, I think the good takeaway is, you know, train yourself in that mindset while things are easy. So that way, because I think if you, like you were pointing out, you know, if you do get to that situation, you have to like decide, it might be too late, you know, if you have to go back and forth and decide. Yeah. So make it a habit now so you can be the hero when you need to when crisis comes.
Yeah. Be the hero that Gotham needs. No, be the hero. What is it? Be the hero that Gotham deserves, but not the one that it needs right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Something like that.
I think so. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, to all the firefighter people out there, you know,
I know almost zero about the fire in Hawaii. What's actually happening there?
I mean, a whole town got massacred by a fire, basically. Like, remember the Paradise Fire that happened in California? Yeah. Where it was like overnight, a whole town got like wiped out. It's like that same thing except on Maui. Oh. Yeah, it's like pretty wild. So
it's crazy. Do they know how it started or anything? Or?
I don't know. Not yet. Yeah. Yeah, people were just like, and like there was no warning. There, like, people didn't even know it was happening. Oh. Yeah, I think there's probably going to be like hundreds of people who passed away from it. People were just like running into the ocean, just trying to escape it because they couldn't even go inland or anything. Wow. So yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, it's really wild. Yeah.
I always thought like it'd be too wet there to like burn.
I thought that too. But yeah. I know. I didn't realize that Hawaii actually has fires. Like, in my mind, it's like, nah, it's too wet. Like, they never have fires, but I guess they do.
Like, if it rains every afternoon, maybe it's a dry season or something.
I think dry season. And I think the west side of the island is drier than the east side. So I guess most rain happens on one side, not as much the other side.
That's trippy.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. So some weird things like that.
Okay. Dang. That's a bummer. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what inspires me, man.
Cool. Yeah. For me, it is a little bit similar, I guess, but I've just been inspired by communities and people who are like just solid people, man. I just love like being around like just solid, nice people. No drama. Just, it's such a refreshing thing. I've just had good conversations this week with people, and just feeling very thankful for a lot of my friends and just connections and stuff like that. And so,
I haven't been around you all week.
You're here Monday. That counts, right? It's a week. Within a week.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But okay, so you had good conversations.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so like yesterday at church, I was just talking with a guy and we just talked about, you know, just everything from microbiome stuff to symbology to whatever, you know. It's like each week at the AI group, I have great conversations about all that kind of stuff. You know, just talking with my buddies, some people about like cards and stuff, you know, and coming up with extreme strategies to try to win these big tournaments in Vegas and stuff. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel very blessed at this point in my life to be able to, you know, just really, you know, us doing this podcast. It's like all these different avenues to just really have low stress, you know, very accepting conversations, you know, where both people are just, you know, wanting to learn, wanting to grow, wanting to just put their best foot forward, you know? And so it's been inspiring me to keep finding those communities or those people that, you know, really embody those ideals of like trying to, you know, grow, be accepting, and, you know, have a lot of interesting things to say, I guess. Yeah. And so is there any ways in your life that you feel like you can suss those people out or find those people? Like, is there any indicators of people that'll be like that for you?
Indicators? Yeah. I mean, I feel like when you can get into like a deep, vulnerable conversation with somebody really easily and you can just be yourself, they're not going to be like too standoffish or judgmental towards you. You can tell them, you know, oh, there's struggle going on, or this is what I'm working on in life, this is what I'm trying to do, something more vulnerable, and they can be like, dude, that's awesome, here, let me help you with that, whatever. Or they can share their goals or whatever it is. Then those are really like good signs of like, I want to invest time with this person, you know.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, it's crazy. I feel like a lot of people these days, even young people, are lonely and like don't have good communities or friends, and they don't even know how to go and make communities or friends. They don't know how to just like, I'm going to just put myself out there. I'm going to show up to like a group of people that's going to go hang out at a thing. And I'm just going to like go try to get involved and talk to people. And like, I'll probably make a friend there. And I'm just going to like try to make friends. Like, people don't have I don't know, the ambition, the courage to go do that. And then even when they do go mingle in some kind of environment like that, they'll just, sit quiet and they don't even know how to like interact with people.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people these days who are, I think they're searching for solid people. And I think that they don't know how to, like, I think they know how to find solid people. They just don't know how to be a solid person themselves, or they don't know how to like show that they're looking for solid people. I think they're like scared or shy, or like, hey, I know that there's cool people here and I'm trying to be friends with you, but I like don't know how to go talk to you and be like, hi, can you be my friend? Like,
yeah.
It's a weird, I think, skill that we've lost, to like being a solid person or a good friend, or like finding friendships or things like that. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and given how important it is to be, have strong people around you, it's like, I mean, the older I get, the more I realize that, it's just like, dude, having the right people around you is like such a boon to your life, just with your own motivation, with your own, being inspired with new ideas, like being encouraged, people challenging you when they need to.
Yeah.
It's like all those things are so underrated. And, it's like, again, like you said, I think it's kind of hard to even, I think, identify that in some regards, like, in people, especially like short term, like that's kind of what I've found. I've always wanted to like, I need to go find a solid person like the first time I go to something, and it's like, you probably won't, just the odds are not in your favor to like, just make a soul friend, like on your first time just going to a volleyball meetup or something,
Right.
you gotta put in the time for one. I think that's a big component of it. But yeah, and again, like you're saying too, with you got to be solid as well. It's like, I think other people are also thinking that same thing of like, I want to be like, solid people are thinking, I want to be around other solid people, and so they're like, if you're not that way yourself, then like you're just gonna kind of get weeded out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so like there is, like, it's great. It'd be great in this world if like everyone could just be accepted and like, oh yeah, like we'll be best friends, but it's like, it's kind of the fallacy of like attraction. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be great if you could just be with the most attractive person ever, whatever, in a relationship, whatever. But it's like, it just doesn't work that way.
But I don't have to try to be attractive, but they're gonna be a 10 out of 10. Exactly. But like, if I'm like a 4, they'll just roll with it.
Yeah, they should accept me,
Yeah.
And so there's this idea that like you don't have to put in the work, but everyone else has to like, kind of come down to your level and meet you, Yeah. But
super entitled.
Yeah, kind of is, yeah. And so, in that scenario, if you put in the work, like those solid people will want to be around you, and then you can like, have those friendships, I think, that you really like crave in a lot of ways. But yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, if you want solid community with other people, you've got to be able to offer that to those people, or else why would they bring you into their community?
Yeah,
and it's like, if you are a solid person and you're capable of doing that, maybe you're just afraid, or you're shy, or you're like not willing to be vulnerable. And it's like, you've got to have the courage to open up and be the person you're capable of being.
Yeah.
Because once people see that in you, then they'll probably recognize it and really like you.
Yeah.
And there's that fear of like, maybe people won't accept me and I can't trust them. And it's like, wow, at some point you got to get over that so that you can have friends again,
Yeah, it's gonna cut like all your bridges pretty much if you do that,
Yeah.
So
I see that in a lot of older folks who don't have friends and are very lonely, and it's like, oh, I don't want to go out and make new friends. It takes too much time and energy, or I don't want to trust people anymore. People keep hurting me, or You know, and like I can understand, like if you're in like your 80s and you've had friends that you knew for like 60 years, and then those friends like pass away, it's like, where am I going to find another friendship that was like 60 years old? You know,
yeah, 60 years in the making. Yeah,
like whoa, that's so hard. You know,
yeah,
and I can understand how it's like once that ends, it's just such, there's no way to replace that kind of friendship. So it's like, wow, well, why would I even try? And then people kind of give up and then they become lonely. But it's like, I think it's
really
still
that,
worth it. Even if you can't replace the old friendship you lost, it's still worth it to create new ones, because I think it's better to have new friendships than to like have no friendships at all.
Yeah. Well, I think once you can kind of recognize where you are, you know, recognize things for what they are instead of trying to like, you know, find that replacement, that exact one-for-one replacement, you know, I think you'll be a lot happier, because it's like, I think so many times people have like one thing, or, you know, I've known people who have had like jobs, you know, and they lose that job, and then it's like they're always trying to get back to that one place, you know, and it's like, dude, no job is ever going to be that thing for you again, you know. It's like, you know, you got to do something else, you know. So the friendship scenario, you know, it's like there's just a different sort of, I think you kind of almost touched on it. There's like a different kind of excitement in a new part of a friendship, you know? And so it's like, you can, yeah, you might not have this deep friendship, but you can still have the opportunity for like a new friendship. And, you know, as long as you're recognizing it, that it's not going to be like this 80-year-old friend, you know, built up thing over a long period of time. It's like, as long as you're not putting that expectation on it, then you can enjoy like the good parts of a new friendship, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think there's, which kind of is, you know, exciting, because then it makes, you know, everything you do, like, I think it's like marriage in some sense, you know. It's like there's always the honeymoon phase, but you're not gonna like live in the honeymoon phase forever, you know. And so like you enjoy it while it lasts, and it's like a thing, but then you like enjoy the new, you know, scenario of like maybe being newlyweds, and then you enjoy like the scenario of having kids, or like whatever the thing is, you know. And so it's just like, not one's not better than the other, they're all just different. And so if you can just live in the moment of those phases, then you can, I think, find a lot more enjoyment out of life. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't, do you find like, is there something that like separates those solid people in your mind, like just for you and your, like your own opinion of like people you want to spend time around? Is there things that separate those people from the rest in some way? Certain attitudes, mindsets.
Yeah, because like I could have shared interest with people, and that'll get us so far. But if you have shared interest, but you don't have any ability to be like vulnerable with another person, then your interest will always be surface deep, and you have a hard time really connecting with that person. So there's been people I've met where it's like, oh, you're into this, I'm super into that too. And then if there's anything outside of that connection that like differs, then it's like, well, this is on really shaky ground. Like as soon as you slightly don't like me, we're like not friends anymore, because just having this one little shared thing like is not enough to keep us friends. You know?
The sports league gets canceled, you never see the person again.
Oh man, where'd you go the past 6 months? I guess I just don't go to that one event anymore, so I forgot about you. You know, yeah, it's like, you know, you could have things like that. And I think that really both people have to have, you don't even necessarily have to have shared interest. I think that's just what starts a lot of friendships for people. But really, you just have to have a willingness to be vulnerable with the other person, because then that creates trust. And people you trust are people that you'll stick with, and you'll do extra things for, and you'll spend time, and you'll go out of your way for that person, and you'll talk about things you wouldn't normally talk about. And then that's a commitment where it's like, dude, it's okay that you voted the opposite from me. Like, we're still friends, you know?
Interesting. Yeah, it transcends a lot of like, interesting.
Yeah.
So does that come from like a person-on-person connection, that trust, or is that like, because I'm thinking about like churches and stuff right now, and it's like, does like a church body, can that like, you know, or an organization, can that create trust between people, or is it like always between two individuals? Or
I think realistically it's between individuals, but a lot of times we will, just as human beings, associate trust with a brand. you know, and it'll be like, well, people from that church, like they're good people. So then if somebody shows up from that church, you're like, I trust those people, you know, just because they're from that group or company or whatever it is, you know?
Oh, yeah, it's like maybe sharing the same values in like in a team setting or something.
Yeah, you know, and so because, and it's like, I don't think that people have really earned that trust individually necessarily. It's just that because they have a certain label slapped on them, people might be willing to trust them more because it's like, oh, well, you're a firefighter, so we can obviously trust you. You know, whatever it is, you're an astronaut. Like, obviously, you're a trustworthy person.
Yeah. Well, I'm even thinking about like organizations that like you might be a part of, you know. So it's like, you know, for instance, I guess maybe this is more just like being in shared goal-oriented things. You like see more of someone's character, but like I'm thinking like being in the army or something, you know, it's like you kind of get like that level of trust with people you serve with. Or in my much lesser case, you know, working at Starbucks, it's like you get to see people like in their elements, because like everyone's kind of pulled out of their shell, you know, to some extent, and so you see like what you're working with, I guess. And so I don't know, maybe there's like something like that where it builds trust. It's not necessarily like you're one-on-one with the person, but you're like working as part of like a bigger agency, you know, or like collective.
Like, even if you've never personally interacted with that person before, but if they've like worked in the same company, like you were in the army, I was in the army. We've never met before, but we were both in the army. So
or
like,
even like
yeah, I trust you.
or even like serving side by side in something, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, like when you're doing volunteer work or something, you know, it's like people serving alongside you, you probably have like a little bit more trust than just some average Joe on the street, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think also when you've had like shared suffering, because then that's like a shared vulnerability. It's like you've seen me in a vulnerable moment and I saw you in a vulnerable moment. We suffered together. So we've already gone like straight to a certain level of depth in your relationship that, you know, you didn't even necessarily earn it with each other. It was just circumstance. It happened that you both like had a depth, and however you interacted with each other at that depth created trust. You know, you respected each other, you helped each other, whatever it was. And so then that allowed you to instantly create a deeper friendship, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
So let's just go trauma bond with everyone. No, just kidding. Probably a bad joke.
Yeah. No, for me, it's like, I've just really been enjoying the people that are like very focused on like trying to live the best life they can, you know. It's like such a, and I mean, you just obviously, or I mean, I get that at church a lot, because it's like, you know, the Orthodox is very works oriented. No, I'm just kidding. it's a blend, but you know, it's like works are very much a part of it, you know. And so it's like a cool thing to see people like trying to put all this stuff into practice often, you know. And it's like, that's great, man. Like, you know, there's so many places to put it in practice in life, you know, all this stuff we learn about. So it's like nice to be with people that, you know, because when Christianity plays out in my mind, it's like, you know, as it's intended, it's like it's a really beautiful thing and like a really positive thing for the world. So, you know, it's great seeing people like taking it seriously and trying to like move, you know, implement it in their life. So yeah.
Do you think, okay, what creates a solid person? Like, is it the way that they were raised? Is it their friendship skills? Is it just that they connected with you individually? Like, how does somebody become a solid person? I don't know. What do you think?
I think it matters probably a little bit differently to each person what that looks like. So solid is a very vague term, obviously.
Right. But they have high density.
They got a lot of mass.
Those muscles are solid. Yeah. Arnold is the most trustworthy person.
Solid man in America. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's like it's probably like a spiritual orientation, I would say. You know, and that's, to me, that's what creates trust for me and other people, is if I feel like they're aligned towards like better things, higher things, you know. And that doesn't necessarily just mean like more spiritual, but just that they're always like seeking truth, you know, they're always like being honest. They're, you know, trying to live to the best of their ability, whatever that is, you know? So it's like, it doesn't necessarily matter where someone is at in their current circumstance, you know, as long as they're trying for better. And like obviously better is subjective as well. But you know, for me, I think it has to do a lot with Christian, and not even like values of like whatever, but just like very deep philosophical Christian things. You know, it's like being honest is a big one, you know. And not even just like don't tell lies, but you know, just facing truth, you know. And it's like if there's something happening in your life, instead of like running from it, you know, it's like facing it and being honest about it, you know. So it's like, yeah, you know, not deceiving yourself, and you know, being in your interactions with others, you know, not trying to be, you know, because like the idea of truth is a very deep one, obviously. And, you know, so it's like even in your interactions with others, you'll notice like sometimes where you do like little things to like get them to like you more, or, you know, to soften the blow of something that, you know, a potential blow you might see, or, you know, to reduce conflict or whatever these things are. But those are like little forms of untruth, you know? And so I think, you know, being honest is a big one towards cutting out these like little hiccups in your interactions with people, in your personal development, all these kinds of things. So when you kind of embrace truth and whatnot, and like orient yourself towards, you know, like the better, and I think most people have like an intrinsic idea of what that is, you know, to some extent. Like if you told people to like, you know, like what would make you a better person, I'd be like, if I'd be nicer, kinder, you know, all these like things that people just kind of know intrinsically or whatever. Be more generous. Like we have virtues that are built up in the Western world and pretty much all over the world, you know, for the most part. So all these values are baked in, whether or not you want to like tie it to Christianity or not. That's a different conversation. But, you know, I think people, when they orient themselves towards those higher things, that's what makes a solid person. And so, yeah, those are the people I'm always looking for.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, like it doesn't mean you can't just like, those are the only people you interact with or whatever, but I think those are the relationships that like edify you and allow you to be your best self for everybody in the world.
They edify you. Okay, wait, what do you mean by they edify you?
Yeah, I think they help with, because hopefully if you're looking for those people, like we were saying earlier, it's like you kind of have to be that person yourself, you know, to have like good connection with those people. And so I think when you find that connection, it's almost like a it's like a reaction or something, you know, where it's like having two of the same thing almost like produces like a greater sum than its parts, you know, where it's like you find these two things and they like propel each other, and the iron sharpens iron, all this kind of stuff. You know, because like you're already hopefully on that journey, so then you find someone else on that journey as well, and they're gonna again like inspire you, you know, with new ideas. They're gonna challenge you, and so since it's like all things you want already, and it's things they're thinking about, you know, it's like studying something, or you know, learning a field with, you know, it's like you always want collaboration to further your ideas and like further your exploration into that field. You know, it's like you can only get so far on your own. So with just about anything. And so having more people like expands the limits of what's possible, I guess, in some sense.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, do you have any thoughts about like kind of having more people, or have you noticed maybe that like having more people with like a shared vision like increases that vision, or like the amount of participation maybe?
I think that it helps in terms of moving you towards that vision. You know, if it's like everybody wants to own a small business, and we're all talking about it together.
So you do all that stuff anyway.
Yeah, it's like I do that stuff all the time. Then it's like, yeah, we're all gonna like share the books that we read and talk about it together, and like let's all like throw around ideas, and I can help you with this and that, and then that's good. Definitely moves you more towards that target, you know.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a caution where if everyone's thinking the same way, you can get tunnel vision or the echo chamber, and it's like at some point you've got to have.
So you need a strong cult leader to take them to the promised land.
At some point you need to have I think some of those voices or friendships where it's like somebody can be completely outside of your little bubble of what you're trying to do and speak a different perspective. And I think that that's a really powerful friendship, you know, when somebody can be like, well, I completely disagree with your whole life trajectory, and let me tell you why. And that can be like a respectable conversation, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, if all of your friends are people who just kind of tell you things you want to hear, then either you're doing everything right, or maybe, you know, you're not allowing yourself to get close to people who would tell you the truth. You know? Then it's like maybe you're not seeking truth, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think that, yeah, there is a lot of power behind a group of like-minded people all moving towards a goal, you know? I definitely think that.
It like increases the power or something, or like, I don't know exactly what it does, but it somehow amplifies the idea or something, maybe.
Most people just don't know the power of the dark side.
Come on over.
And that's why they have to join.
We've got cake. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but then again, if you have a bunch of yes people, it's like and just to my definition, that's not solid people, you know? So, because they're not telling you the truth. So, like you pointed out.
Right.
But yeah, it is interesting. I don't know. To me, it seems like it's always a fraction of the people. This episode feels bad because it feels like I'm just like calling out like 80% of the population or whatever.
Most of you, not us. Most of you suck.
Yeah, and it's not that at all. I don't know. Like, I guess as soon as you put a number on it, it gets weird. But
yeah,
you know, and maybe I'll just save my own bacon and just say it's like people that I identify with, you know, as whatever, solid people. So it's not an overall value judgment on anybody. Right.
Solid is Paul's subjective measurement.
Exactly. That's right. And so, you know, for me, it's like I feel like maybe 20% of the people, you know, in any given group are like, you know, very solid people that I'm like.
The rest are soft.
Yeah. No. And it's like, again, it's just like it might be that people. I don't know. I just see some people and it's like they don't have the drive for like change in their life. I don't know.
Personal development or
or just like, I don't know, anything. It's like, I mean, the joke is, you know, on the internet, it's like all the NPC people. You know, and it's like,
well, wait, what is the joke? I mean,
just like, you
so
know,
many people are NPCs or something.
Basically, yeah. You know, it's like they have their like little set of dialogue options that you go through. And
how you doing today? Good. Yeah. How are you doing? I'm also doing good.
Yeah.
It's great weather, huh? Yes, it is. Took an arrow to the knee.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, so it's like at a certain point you just run out of like dialogue options, and it's like, okay, you have to like just kind of walk away.
Yeah.
And so, and then like, I'm not trying to put anyone down, you know, obviously, but it's just like I always wonder, like, am I just missing something about that person, you know? Like, am I not able to like connect with them in a way that like brings out a better side of them or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say, like, is it my interaction with this person that they don't feel comfortable showing me the hero inside of them? Exactly, and they're like, I'm just going to be an NPC with this player because I'm not into them.
Yeah, it might be on my end.
Am I shutting them down?
Yeah.
Is it just the circumstance, just happens to be the day? Well, on Mondays, I'm an NPC, but on Fridays, I'm a hero. Or is it just that person, like, is not trying in their life, and it's like, hey, person, wake up, be a human again. You know, you're living in robot land.
Yeah Exactly. You know, and it's like, it's, you know, I tend to think it's not me, just because like so much of our world is built around NPCs. You know, it's like it's gonna be the worst episode we've ever done, dude.
We're just calling, you know, NPCs, sheep, whatever you want to call it.
What other derogatory?
We've all been automated at one point in our lives.
That's fair. Yeah,
you know? We've all lived in the Matrix.
We still do it. Each day. But you know, it's like so much of the world is set up to like, you know, just harvest from like NPCs. You know, it's like advertising. It's just like all just like basic like stimulation, like call and response type stuff. You know. It's like mass marketing is like, if you just send out 1,000 emails, you'll get like guaranteed 20% people like that just click on your thing and buy your thing. You know, it's like, it's all like calculated statistic, like just preying on like the lowest common denominator to like, you know, get your basic budget in, you know? So it's like, everything is kind of just set up that way. It's like Marvel movie number 36 is out this month, you know, and it's like, it's okay. You know, we'll get however many millions of dollars because this X amount of people are just going to go see it because it's a Marvel movie.
Right.
You know, they don't care about anything else that other than it has Marvel in the name. It's like this trigger word, you know, it's like, oh, okay, time to go theater, you know? So I don't know, like it seems like a lot of things are set up to really facilitate that, like checking out, you know, in some sense.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's like everything's been made so easy that you don't have to think about anything, you know? It's like,
how can we unplug the NPCs? How do we wake them up? Wasn't that a movie? Wasn't that
Free Guy?
Free Guy. Yeah, that's right, with Ryan Reynolds, where he was an NPC.
Yeah,
that's right. And then that was such an interesting idea.
It was funny. Yeah. It was a good time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like it's. Well, and I we might have to cut this episode, dude. It's like, you know, because like
the people can't handle it because we're speaking the truth to them.
Maybe, maybe this is my own.
If you can't listen to the truth, people, just turn it off now.
Yeah, this is my own wake up call. I guess it's probably more of an insecurity of like just I don't want to come across as judgmental, but these are my honest thoughts.
We're not judging you.
These are my honest thoughts, so I should probably share them like we're talking about to be a solid person. But, you know, it's like I think there's just different levels of like engagement, or not engagement, but like there's just different levels of like, I don't know, just energy. Maybe not energy is the right word.
Like people trying, like in terms of like a friendship or
no,
life.
No. Yeah, just life. Yeah. Like there's just like a different level of like ingenuity people bring to like life. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know if ingenuity is
ambition.
Right word. Yeah, ambition. Maybe.
Ambition. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's totally fine. You know, so it's like, you know, I think being an NPC is different from, you know,
a player who just drives slow.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Like you could either be Bowser in Mario Kart, or you could be the little Toad guy. But as long as you're just not one of the little Doopa Loopas on the side of the road that's not even playing the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know. So it's like some people are just like more like the slow and steady, and it's like they don't need to like come up with crazy innovative things and, you know, have the most esoteric conversations or whatever, you know. So it's like, I think when people say NPC, it's like they think boring people, but I think boring people are like totally fine and probably make up the majority of the world. You know, it's like you need to keep your sewer systems running in your city, you know, and it's like you just want somebody that's nice and reliable that just, you know, shows up to work, runs the machines, you know, make sure that you don't get backups. Like most of the world is run with boring jobs, you know, and boring things.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't need a lot of, you know, crazy innovator people or whatever, which I think our culture likes to celebrate. You know, it's like, or Elon Musk, you know, he's our, you know, new god or whatever. And so, but it's like he's like literally like 0.0001% of the population.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's like, but everyone wants to have the next tech startup and go to space, which is cool. Yeah. But you know, you need like 90% of the population to like make the infrastructure steady enough for that to even work, you know,
right?
Or else you're just like in a weird chaos land and you can't do anything. So like, I think the solid people are underrated for sure.
Well, okay. So I think,
and I use solid differently
again in defining the NPCs from the solid people.
Yeah.
I feel like the NPC is the person who's not trying to have social community connection with other people. You know, they're like kind of keeping that at a bare minimum.
Well, they might be engaged in like social things, but it's like, it's more of a function of like you're like just following a norm, you know, it's like, so they might go to like a soccer game or something, you know, like a big, you know, whatever soccer game or something, or like sports event or something like that, you know, and be in the stands. And so they're like being social technically, I guess, but it's like, it's just because what everybody else does. Like, who's like the 10,000th person like buying a ticket for Taylor Swift? You know, I don't know.
Yeah. I kind of see it as like people who aren't willing to challenge themselves or do things that are uncomfortable. That's kind of how I see it. Like if I take somebody out on a date, well, I'm married now. So if I took my wife out on a date, it's like, do I take you out on a date to go watch a movie because that's easy and I just like pay money and we don't have to talk? Or do I like take you out on a date where I'm going to sit across from you at a table and be like, so what was the best thing of your week? Yeah. I have to like ask you an engaging question. It's like one is a lot harder and the other is a lot easier. And it's like, how much energy am I going to put towards this date right now? And I feel like the NPC is the person who's always looking to put the least amount of energy into whatever they're doing, whether it's like personal development, social interactions, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I view the NPC.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like I think that's a wonderful definition because then we can all be the NPC at times, you know, it's like we don't put in the effort, you know?
Yeah, like sometimes you're in a season of life where it's like, I just don't have the energy or I don't care about this thing or whatever it is. And I think part of it is, are you just not interested in your life enough that you don't care to put the energy in? And it's like, what needs to wake you up so that you become interested in life? Or are you just literally not doing anything interesting in your life? And it's like, you would have a lot more energy if you were just doing more interesting things. Like maybe you need to change everything you're doing in life.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gone through phases like that. Like where I'm like, I usually like be like, oh, I don't have enough energy. I need to sleep more. And like, I'll sleep more for a couple days and it's like, I still don't have more energy, you know? And it's like, and then other times I'll be like getting, you know, 6 to 7 hours a night. And it's like I wake up each day and just like jump out of bed and I'm like ready to go. Yeah. Like I got my thing I need to work on and whatever. So my energy levels have always been more towards what I'm inspired by than any sort of physical factor.
It makes me ask the question, maybe you're boring because you're just bored. Like maybe you are bored yourself in your life and that's making you a boring person. Yeah. Like maybe you need to go Secret Life of Walter Mitty and go like chase away from a volcano on a skateboard or, you know,
go fight a wildfire somewhere.
Go
pick up a shovel and go. Yeah. I think all the fire crews up here are looking for more people. So there you go.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy the other day. He's like, dude, I haven't been home in like weeks.
Wow.
It's just like everything, you know, they're just sending them everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah. But anyway.
There it is. All right.
You can change your fate. You don't have to be an NPC.
That's right. That's right, people. So you could save people in a mine shaft by being a solid person, not an NPC.
All right.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Another episode.